Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain. It's a plane. It's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who, disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Okay, hey, it's Walter. I've been off, I think, since probably, I'm going to say since October. I don't even remember anymore. And it is now a brand new year, and it is the 24th of January, 2021. It's hard to believe that. Now, a lot of people may not think of this, but do you know this is coming up on exactly 20 years since 9/11. I mean, this coming October is going to be exactly 20 years, and how much has changed over these 20 years. And I can't say it's very promising, at least in my opinion, for the way the elections went. I remember I was telling myself, and I was probably mentioning to other people, I don't know, I talk to myself so much I don't even know anymore, that hey, listen, I'm going to be talking about this election, and then I waited, and I was afraid to because of all this nonsense going on. And I think it had taken many of us by surprise to find out that Biden actually won, and I don't think it was legitimately. I personally am one of those people who, I mean, the man was less popular on collecting votes, whatever you want to say, than Hillary, Obama, and our vice president, Harris. She's even less popular. I mean, they are two of the worst picks. I mean, Democrats didn't even want either one of them, but yet they were able to pull this off. So I told my one friend, Matt, I said, the thing that scares me about this whole shenanigans is if they were able to successfully overthrow an election that obviously should have won to Trump, what is going to happen in 4 years from now? I mean, Trump may try to run again, but if he's going to, I bet you any money, I mean, I can't prove this, but I would assume he would run against Hillary again. And if they got this whole thing in the bag with mail-in voting and everything like that, what is to not stop this election going in her favor the next time around? And a lot, I mean, not a lot, but there will be those few select wearing the pink hats who will say, well, you know what, this is making things right because the election was stolen from her, and now she's stealing it back from him. That's my guess. I picked a theme. I was thinking in the back of my head was 1984, and it was on the theme of ignorance is strength. And I believe that. I really do. If only George Orwell knew how correct he was on that statement. I don't think he had a different idea in his mind when he came up with, the whole story and involved himself in writing 1984 in 1948, because that's what he did. He changed the numbers around. And it was his fear of socialism. Well, guess what? And I've mentioned this. It falls on deaf ears with most people, but I've said this to many people that are hopefully on my side, that we are truly, and I heard this on Rush Limbaugh, we are truly in a banana republic. We are no longer a democracy. We are a banana republic. And I heard somebody call in the Rush Limbaugh and actually use those words. And I also heard people say that we are more in Nazi Germany, which is a little bit harsh, but yeah, we kind of are. We have elections chosen for us. We have no say in the matter. So yeah, we are in some type of communist country now, unfortunately. And this really does scare me because, maybe it's from listening to too much conservative talk, radio and TV, but it had convinced me if we lose this election, we've lost any future elections on our freedom. And I kind of am paranoid about that. I'm not going to make a whole show about that, though. You know what concerns me more than anything else? More so than this overthrown election, or just why I wanted to call this episode Ignorance is Strength, is because people are truly ignorant. They are so self-consumed nowadays. I mean, this is why I don't like going out. I have to go out to get certain groceries and stuff, but people are so self-consumed, even in retail, and I don't think like anybody under the age of 40 years old, with the exception of a few who are just as ignorant as the people under the age of 40, don't quite understand that if you keep on making life about yourself, eventually your job's going to go away. Meaning that people are so self-consumed about, they don't care about, like, if they work at a job doing a really good job. If they work in retail, they don't care any longer about customer service. They worry more about what's on their cell phone, which they should not have in, like, retail business. So I've seen that in Walmart, Redner's tonight, that the people working on the floor are so self-consumed about what's on their phone and their social life. And I've heard before people even blasting music in the aisleways that are workers at these places, that customers like myself are getting so fed up. I order practically everything, including food, that I'll just order online and pick it up because it just gets really irritating to have to deal with somebody who is very immature and not responsible. And I have friends that are in beyond the age of their 40s and still act like children. And you know what? That really bothers me. The age of respect and responsibility, I think, is definitely a thing of the past. I may sound like an old man, but trust me, I'm not that old. It's just really, really irritating, though. So anyway, some sad news on a different note. Did you know Larry King passed away? I didn't, it was last week, I guess, because it's going to start a new week now. And I don't particularly agree with him. I mean, Larry King was on CNN, so I need not to say anymore because I was forced to watch that channel for almost 20 years that I worked at my old job, and it couldn't stand it because it was just filtered on the television screens at where I used to work, and it was just really irritating. I hated it then, and I hate it even more. And I mean, years ago, you had Glenn Beck on there, and that was a surprise, but they threw him off because he was too conservative. Speaking about Glenn and stuff, what's really irritating right now? A lot of the conservative radio, they seem to, have nothing to talk about anymore. Before it was hyping you up like Rush Limbaugh, and he's been out a lot because of his cancer, and Glenn Beck and Stu. There's a show you can get on Pluto TV called Stu Does America, and it's really good. But there's a couple other talk show hosts that you can listen to or watch, and it was great because they were really pumping me up and getting me excited to, wow, and even Newsmax, which is actually stuck in there and actually do what they're supposed to do, tell you the news. And not give you a one-sided view. They give you actually a broad side of view. They give you the whole picture, not just part of it. But what was I going to say? These shows are like, they have nothing to talk about, and it's really obvious. So they are padding their 3-hour shows, or whatever they may be, but talk radio is usually, any radio program is like 3 hours. With nothing. I mean, it's just nonsense. And I've gotten to the point, it's like I want to scream. I can't deal with it. And I get up, like tomorrow I got to get up early because I got to try to get ready at a decent time before work. Because over the weekend, yesterday, on my time, which by the time I'm done this program, it's going to be Monday morning, I did my taxes online with TurboTax. And it was like, great, because I only have one job to worry about. Before I had an old job, a new job, unemployment, and taking out money from my 401k, which is now still there. But I added a Roth fund too. So I did borrow money last year, but it was through my company that I work at now. So that was great because when I had to do the paperwork, everything was right in front of me. I got through it all, but for some reason I use Fidelity Net Benefits, and they sent me out 2 forms for one withdrawal. There was actually one physical withdrawal, but they gave me 2 sets of paperwork, and it was like, okay, what do I do? So I figured out the numbers were all for the category number, whatever you call it, was exactly the same. The only difference was one added $145 to a $2,000 withdrawal. So so I had to figure it out. I was like, okay, well, the numbers, the paperwork is actually the same. It was like a correction on the first set of paperwork with added material, added costs. So I just basically combined it and I figured it out. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to pay into the state. And I've done it before. It's a lot less because the thing is with having a Roth fund, you pay all your taxes up front. The only thing, if you take the money out before a certain age, you're going to be penalized. Well, my penalty wasn't that bad. It was like $68. The year before last, it was close to about $1,000. It was a lot of money. My dad actually helped me out with that, but it was a big chunk of money. In fact, it was a mess. So, but bottom line is, I gotta call back, or they're gonna call me. They called me all weekend. This is TurboTax. Yeah, it's sales or representatives, not sales reps. Representatives standing by, and it was every time they called, I was like, you know what? I'm too tired. I'm just gonna let them call me on Monday at a scheduled time. Alrighty. So, there wasn't much. I've been very hesitant, very worried about doing shows, of hearing how now under our new, our new administration, they will be taking down people who actually have a freedom of thought is no longer, in my opinion, out there. So it does really concern me that I'll do a podcast and say something that somebody may hear that they don't like, and I will get in trouble. So that is a major concern. Now I've made a lot of changes. I have to thank my friend Rich. And I'm sorry, but I haven't spoken such a long time that I found out just a few months ago, and I hate to mention this, my friend Rich is in the process of getting a divorce. So it wasn't looking too good for him or his wife. And it's been a very messy situation for both of them. And it actually benefited me in one way. Was I bought this rather large gaming computer. It's an Alienware. I think I mentioned it. It worked great. It worked nice. I wanted to use the word nicely, but is that a word? I don't know. But it was way too much for what I do. So it was like, you know what? It was rather big, the case. The actual inside guts was a lot smaller, but it was rather a large case. It was under, and I'm kicking my feet on it all the time. It was really driving me crazy. So I went over to Micro Center and I bought a mini computer, and it's called the Intel NUC, NUC. And it was like, well, you know what? I really don't use a lot of stuff. I do play games once in a while. Once in a great moon, I'll pull out a game and I'll play it. But I don't do that much. Lately, over this past couple days, I have been playing games, and there's more to that story. So, I bought not just one, but I ended up buying another mini computer. And I mean, mini computer that will fit in the palm of your hand practically. It's a little bit bigger. So it was like, great. I can put, there's these new hard drives. They're called M2. And you can use SSD. You use laptop RAM. And you basically get what's called a bare bones computer. The NUC is the best one probably out there. But the reason I got that was to put Linux on there. It's like, you know what? When I got away from Apple, one of the main reasons was, and I knew this was going to happen eventually, is because Steve Jobs is no longer in the picture. And I know that Apple was going to kind of go in a direction that I no longer recognize the company. The company I knew and loved for the past practically 20 years. Because I was using Apple for quite a while, here and there. Probably more like 30 years. But then I really got really heavily into just using just Apple. And a couple years back, I had bought, when the price actually started coming down, it still was expensive. It was like $2,300 or $2,500. I bought a refurbished 2013 Mac Pro. Not a MacBook, but a Mac Pro. And I was like, hey, this is great. But I noticed it started to get a little bit long-toothed and run a little bit sluggish. I had it for quite a couple years. And it was like, okay. I asked my friend Rich, would you buy it off me? And I said, well, he said, how much are you looking for? I said, $1,000. It was like, hey, no, okay. I can't pay it all up front, but would you be willing to buy it? And it's like, yeah. So that's when I bought this Alienware. I'm kind of jumping around. The Alienware was great. It's just, it was really big, and I was hoping, which I didn't know, Alienware was its own company, and it got bought out by Dell. So technically, it's like a Dell computer, that it's like the upscale part of Dell. Because Alienware, in my opinion, their computers are really nice. But they are expensive. So I got one. And I sold my Apple, the money I got from the Apple desktop, I bought this Alienware. Which is kind of funny, because I had it and was like, wow, I'm keep on kicking my damn feet into the bottom of it. And when I bought this Alienware, I made sure to get damage protection, because I had a tower case prior to my Mac Pro, which I had accidentally spilled enough water in there that the damn machine, it was a cheese grater desktop underneath the desk. It was a tower case from Apple. And it basically, the whole thing was destroyed. According to my friend Rich, he checked it out. I don't know, but that's what he told me. So I'm jumping around. And, yeah, and I realized, by the way, when I bought this Alienware, you could only run Windows on there. I bought a gaming computer, by the way, at that time. And I bought the gaming computer because I figured a gaming computer has to be really up to par with all the parts, and it has to run, rather smoothly, and it's got to have like some heavy duty components in there, meaning a really good graphics card, plenty of memory, fast processor, fast hard drives, and everything else. So that's why I went the extra mile, and I got something that was like something probably was overkill, but I wanted something that would hold up. But my whole intention, my whole idea was, okay, I'm going to buy this, but I'm going to probably just destroy, I'm going to torch the operating system, or at least put in the background, and put on Linux. the other operating system out there. And unfortunately, I found out that Dell has a thing that you can't run Linux on their machines. You can kind of jury-rig it to finally get it work, but it's probably not advisable for people like myself because you can end up doing more damage than good. So it was like, you know what? That's what started me from the beginning when I was talking about this stuff of actually maybe I better just get a little mini computer because I don't need all this stuff. I don't need to be banging up my legs underneath my desk with this big clunky computer. So I end up going out and buying not one but two. I tried different ones, and I bought a mini computer that was Intel-based. For some reason, Linux used to 100% by default, you basically downloaded the operating system, which is absolutely free. You loaded it on. Didn't matter what processor, what graphics card you ran. It had 100% support on everything. But I guess it got a little bit more complicated for the people because it's actually individuals who work on this stuff. They're not getting paid for making or fixing anything under Linux. So what they did was they just kind of cut some, I guess, some work time, and they just only really made support for NVIDIA, NVIDIA graphics cards. And they support it more, or they spent more time focusing on driver support and getting things working under Intel. So I figured, you know what? When I bought this little mini computer, I'm going to get one that was completely all Intel. It had built-in graphics from Intel on the CPU. The GPU, the graphics processor unit, is built into the chipset, but it's all Intel. And it's not great. It's okay. But for Linux, it will, you just download whatever OS you want, what version of Linux, I should say, and it will run right off the bat. No questions asked. It used to be, because I had an old laptop, I sold that now to my friend Rich, too. And it ran pretty sluggish unless you did run Linux. Linux ran a lot better, but it was even sluggish with that. That ran AMD CPU. They call it actually an APU. It's a CPU and a GPU built into one. And it ran Linux fine on that. But again, it got a little sluggish. I actually sold that to Rich, and I got from Walmart. They have bought the branded name of Gateway, and they put out these computers that are actually not gateways, and they actually run pretty damn good. They have like network issues and stuff, but they're not bad, and they're cheap. So I put Linux on there, but now the big thing is, what version of Linux, Walter, are you running? Good question. There is many, many versions. One I least liked on Linux and is the most popular one is one called Ubuntu. That's been around for quite a while. A lot of people who have really no clue about Linux will run Ubuntu on top of anything else because it just works. You download it, you load it, and it runs almost any thing you want it to run. Not like, oh, I can buy a Windows program and run it on Linux Ubuntu. No, not that, but it has what you need on there. So right now, as I'm recording this show, I am using Linux Ubuntu, but it's a version somebody made just, I think, about 4 years ago that the people who got invested in making this version of Linux made a desktop that runs and looks very similar to Mac. No brainer, and it's free. So right now, that's what I'm using. I would have done a show about this. Maybe I did. I can't remember because it's been such a long time. But yeah, I'm running what's called Linux Ubuntu Budgie, if I did not mention it. And Budgie, meaning like it's spelled exactly the same, like the bird. Little parakeet, they're called budgies. And I told myself, well, you know what? I got to do a show using this new setup of software, which is also run on my Walmart Gateway branded laptop that I bought. And it does. It runs really good. And the thing I like about Linux is virtually any program out there, and actually Microsoft has gotten involved with Linux and being more cooperative with their programs. Like they actually have, I have it on my desktop. It's a version of their like, about Google Chrome. Well, they have Microsoft bought Chrome, and they now call it Microsoft Edge. Well, they have a version for Linux, which when you put that on, you can run Microsoft programs on that. You can run Office. You can run other Microsoft stuff because they made their own version of Chrome. They basically bought Chrome out. And, Microsoft runs their programs through this web browser. And also, Microsoft does have support for Linux, which is unheard of. But yeah, they finally got to the point they realized, well, there's not a lot. It's still a small percentage of people who use Linux. But why fight them? We're just going to allow people to run it. So, I mean, right now, like I said, in fact, I did sell off now, by the way, what I was starting to talk about, my Alienware desktop, which Rich bought. First, he bought a video card out of the machine. The machine I bought it for at Best Buy, I think it was like it got discounted, so I got money back. I initially bought it for $1,800. It was an open box, and it was Geek Squad certified. Then I saw, hey, wait a minute, this went down by $200. I want that $200 back, so they gave it back. So I got it for $1,600. So there was a video card in this Alienware desktop. Rich said, hey, can I buy that off you? It's a graphics card I wouldn't mind having. I said, sure. How much would you give me for it? $600. I said, okay, it's yours. So he gave me $600. Then he wanted to build a computer for his son, but with this divorce going on, he didn't have time to do so. So I said, well, I'm interested in selling my Alienware desktop off. I don't have the room for it. It's too big. How much do you want? He asked me how much you want for it. I said, $1,000 at least. I might take $900, but I prefer $1,000. No sweat. So he bought everything off that computer. I didn't pay a dime for that. So what I end up doing is he's in the process of paying me off on that. I end up, just for people, a heads up, if you want to buy a PC, I was a little bit leery about it. I bought a Micro Center branded computer and a Micro Center gaming computer, but the reason I got another gaming computer, because Micro Center had one that was actually really small. It's a mid-sized tower case. It is under my desk again, but I am not kicking my feet with this desktop, and it runs really nice. And all the parts, which is unheard of, it was like that years ago with HP at least. They have all name brand parts in their computer that is a house branded computer from Micro Center. Micro Center doesn't actually build these computers. It's another company for them. But they put all name brand parts in there. They put a couple of the store brand parts, like it's basically equivalent to a generic brand. But they're fine. And the computer runs really nice. It was far less than what I paid for the Alienware. And if I do decide to run certain programs that really would rather run under Windows, I still have a Windows desktop. It was funny, I bought a mini computer running Windows. It ran great. But what happened was, it just wouldn't run certain things because it was only the size of my palm of my hands. So I had a lot in there. I had a lot of stuff in this little mini computer. This was like one of two. I had two different mini computers. But I got to the point, I was like, you know what? I can buy for a cheaper price a little mid-tower case, put it under the desk again, doesn't take up much room. It's Micro Center's house brand, and it was around the same price what I paid for this mini computer, but it is definitely a lot more powerful. So I went to the store, told a really nice girl, really cute, at Micro Center. She's like a new front-end manager at Micro Center over in St. David's. Hey, I got a couple things here that I like to return, but some of this stuff is out of warranty as far as the return policy. She said, don't worry about it. I'll take everything you have. So she cut me a gift card for like $900 or $800. So I put that money on this new gaming computer, which is actually a lot smaller, just as powerful, and I have that. Would I do a podcast on there? Probably not, because it's Microsoft. Now, I use a program called Audacity, but honestly, Audacity, I'm going to cross my fingers, runs better under its native home of Linux, because from what I understand, it was originally, Audacity was a program for Linux anyway. And then they ported it to Mac and into Windows and stuff. And under Windows, it was god-awful. Under Mac, it was actually pretty good. Under Windows, it's like, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Under Linux, again, I'm going to cross my fingers, it works really good. So, anyway, I've been babbling on for 31 minutes. I'm always afraid when I don't do a show for months, it's going to just really linger on. So, but there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. The main thing I was going to talk about was just the pettiness of grown adults acting like children. That's my main problem. I'll tell you one thing I've noticed. Linux had a lot of programs on there that if you want to, you don't have to load these programs. They're all open source. There's a program for people who are interested that I use right now called Transmission. It is a BitTorrent program that kind of just doesn't put a red flag up or any type of flag to say, hey, listen, I'm downloading stuff on this damn computer. You might want to check this out. Like, it's not going to draw people's attention, the wrong people. So it works really nice. It's very discreet. It basically doesn't try to draw attention to your server, or I should say to your domain, your web, whatever. Now, I don't want to use the word web domain. I should not use the word server. But it works, and there's a couple things that I couldn't find, or I just wanted to check it out, and I used their program, and it works really, really good. So I was doing that, downloaded some old shows I have somewhere in the house. I just don't know where I put them. One was like Kolchak the Night Stalker, which is really nice. So, it's always happens every time I do a podcast. Even after 3 months, my father finds it necessary for the first time to talk to me. So, I was downloading a couple things, actually watching some shows, and a movie I'm going to hear about from Matt that he's tired of hearing it from me talking about some film. Let's see if he texted me about, Walter, enough already. Because I know I'm going to hear that soon. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. You know what? It was kind of weird. I saw this, I really don't use Facebook much, and for many reasons. But I do use it to post stories so I can go back to them later on and maybe mention them. So one you might want to check out. I saw this from another story. It was in the New York Post. It was actually this past week. And it was titled, German Scientists Make Paralyzed Mice Walk Again. German researchers have enabled mice paralyzed after spine cord injuries to walk again. So I think they deliberately, I know mice are pretty grotesque animals, but I think they're cute. And I mean, being a lab rat, I know people don't think about it, and they actually serve a purpose, I guess. But obviously they paralyze these poor mice and then figure out a way to correct the problem. So what does this mean? Well, people who are paralyzed, probably even paraplegics, like what happened to Christopher Reeve. With this kind of technology, this definitely makes a big difference. So, was an interesting story that I saw. I'm sorry, I'm making sure sorry about that. He will poke his head in here and then start talking to me. So, my father. So that was like an interesting story, real quick, until I try to make this under an hour if I can. This was a scare because now not that this would have affected it this quickly, but now that Biden is in office, one thing people were saying, I bet the gas prices are going to go up. And yeah, they are. I mean, it's too soon to say it was because of him, but day one, Biden did sign to stop the Keystone Pipeline, which instantly put, I believe it was 11,000 people out of work. And it was kind of ironic that 8,000 of these workers are union people, and unions really support the Democrats. So, because unions claim that Democrats keep your jobs around, but yet there are 8,000 people, union workers, without work right now. So, explain that one to me. Anyway, there was an article that said Philadelphia, CBSLocal.com. It states that gas prices rise slow in New Jersey around the nation. Drivers were paying an average of $2.61 a gallon a year ago at this time. Well, they're saying that the prices are starting to creep up already. I mean, that's pretty short. I mean, I hate to say it, but I believe that Biden, within 72 hours, had created more damage than they claim Trump did in 4 years, which he did not. He actually improved unemployment and stuff like that. And here's another thing. I don't know if that was from Biden or Trump. I really can't say, but I have a friend who, honestly, he seems to me, no offense to him, he doesn't want to work. And when I talk to him, he doesn't respond back to anything I say, for one thing. But he's always busy. He's got a whole list of TV shows to watch, sports games, and 7 days a week he's taking his mother out going shopping 7 days a week. And then on top of it, he tries to apply for a job here and there, but they're jobs that, you know what, if they're dead-end jobs, I just look elsewhere. Like, I told him like several hundred times, I said, listen, when I was out of work, when I got fired, the next day I had to do paperwork for arbitration, stuff pertaining to an arbitration I had set up. I had to also obviously look into unemployment, but I was doing a lot of work for the lawyer, set up my case against my job that I lost, but I was also constantly looking for work, every type of job under the sun, at every store, every business. I went to, least that I can think off the top of my head, 4 interviews for all types of jobs. I didn't just like say, well, you know what, if I don't get the job I want, screw it, I'm not going to look anywhere else. I looked for every possible avenue for a job. He's not really doing that I see. In fact, he was saying, well, you know what? I got money because the place he worked went out of business. They closed it down. Not went out of business, but his location, he worked at a retail store, got closed down. So he's been just watching television shows. He keeps all his streaming networks and his cable networks, his cable and everything. When I lost my job, I eliminated a lot of excess spending, and that meant getting rid of all my streaming services, getting a cheaper phone line service. I went from Verizon to T-Mobile because I could afford that. What else? Yeah, I constantly was looking for jobs. When I was working, I was temp at the job I work now, and I got hired on. I worked there for over a year as a temp at the place I worked. And they kept on telling me, would you like a full-time job? I said, well, I'm trying to see if I get my old job back. And they were very cooperative about that. But yeah, I got to the point that I had to take the job. But this friend of mine, he's like just contented that, well, I'm still getting insurance, but let's face it, after another 6 weeks, I'm going to probably be on COBRA. I didn't look for that. I looked for a job ASAP. I looked for a job that had benefits and retirement funds and, health insurance and stuff. He's not looking for that stuff, not that I see. And then on top of it, he says, well, at least for the next 6 weeks, I'll get an extra $300. You know what? I hate to tell you, that would be the last freaking thing on my mind. Oh, well, I can basically sit around driving to shopping malls every single day and watching cable and feeding my face and, basically be a total nuisance to society. Hey, you know what? You should change your stripes and stop being a Republican and go be a Democrat, because that's what you seem like you want to be. What do you call that? Like, well, I think it's a different meaning to that, but he definitely reminds me of like one of those people who pretend to be a Republican in their mindset, but they might as well just be a Democrat. And I'm not. That is very insultive towards people, because I have friends that are Democrats and I get along with them. I just don't talk about politics, and I apologize for bringing that up. It just really pisses me off. And I have some people, even where I work, I think, no offense to anybody I work with, it kind of reminds me of high school. And why I say this, I just got to get this out. Like when I was in middle school and I guess Methacton High School, that's senior high, or was it junior, senior high, and stuff like that. Well, you had people you were friends, but then they had to be in with the cool kids. So in order to be in with the cool kids, you had to be a total jerk to your existing friends, meaning me. So they'd have to bully you and tease you and stuff like that. Well, I feel like I'm in that mindset now, not with everybody, but a few people at my job, and that's annoying too. I'm going to let you know. And it's not everybody, but, hey, I got to be with the cool people, so I can't talk to this guy. I can't talk to Walter because he's a dork. Well, go back to high school then, please. Do not work. And you know what? I remember when Stern was at his peak and everybody knew and loved him. I remember one thing Stern said when somebody really pissed him off. He said in his mind he had just pretended that they had passed away. I could just say, hey, they passed away from the COVID-19 virus, and that he went to their funeral, they were buried, and they don't exist anymore when he sees them. That's what I need to learn how to do, because there are plenty of grade school / high school people out there who will never grow up. And it's not any fault of anybody's, but if I was them, I would put on the big boy pants or the big girl pants and start acting like an adult. So anyway, I am quickly running out of time. I thought there's this really funny story. It was on Patch.com. It came up on my cell phone the night I was at lunch at my job. And it said, trash bag bandit robs Bucks. It says Bucks CO. So what is that, county or a company store? The robber had a white vanilla smelling trash bag wrapped around his head, waist, legs, and feet. And they have a picture of it. I'm sorry, but it was the funniest freaking thing I've seen. So he had scented trash bags over his head. It's like an inside joke between me and my friends with the trash bag deal, but I'm not going to say exactly what or why, but it's an inside joke with me with trash bags. So I saw this story about a trash bags bandit. I didn't realize they were scented bags. That is freaking hilarious. On a lighter note, I decided, I am not picking up all these streaming services. I just can't afford them at this point. So I heaven forbid, but I wanted to check out certain things. On the cusp of maybe picking up one of the streaming services that I did drop. But everything else I've been just downloading because I can't afford it. I don't have the money I was making before. I mean, I'm making almost less than half of what I made in the past for the past 18 years. So that's a big chunk. I mean, realistically, though, it's much better where I work right now financially than most people are going to have with the jobs they're going to be finding in the near future, which are going to be really bad. Excuse me. So one thing that's been getting a lot of hype, and honestly, I'm still leery about it, there was a new show on Disney. I'm trying to avoid from saying Disney Plus, but it's a Marvel Studios TV show. I think it's just going to be a mini series, but it's on Disney. You have to have the streaming service. It's not on their TV network. And it's called WandaVision. And it's based upon characters. One was it's Elizabeth Olsen plays this character, which I think was called Scarlet Witch in the Marvel movies. But the character's name is actually Wanda. And it's called WandaVision because it has another character that's some type of humanoid alien robot named Vision. And it is kind of weird. It is definitely a mental fuck. I just said it. It's a mental fuck because it is really weird. But when I first watched it, they try to make it look like the very first episode. There's only 3 now, I believe. They made it look like a 50s, what do you call it? I want to say Dick Van Dyke show. Black and white, the whole look. Even kind of ripped it off. Then the second one tried to look more like Brady Bunch, I think. Or was that the third one? Oh, the second one they made it look like a black and white Bewitched. And the third one they made it look like the Brady Bunch. But you find out, if you are familiar with the universe of Marvel, there is the evil society known as Hydravision, or Hydravision, yeah. Hydra was basically equivalent in the Marvel universe to basically Nazis. And that was basically, Hydra was under, I believe, Captain America. So this whole thing with WandaVision, they keep on giving you little subtle hints that Hydra is responsible for what's going on or what is not. I go see some of these superhero movies, but I really quite, unless it's on DC with Superman and Wonder Woman, I really could care less, and they're okay. I'd see them because it's something to go out and see something that's a little bit like you don't have to think about it. It's just a lot of action, a lot of blowing up of things. But WandaVision is a completely different twist, but it doesn't follow the regular line of a superhero, and it is recorded in front of a live audience. I mean, I have a Love Jones of some sort, though, for Elizabeth Olsen, because she's much better looking than the Olsen twins. But, yeah, she's actually really good in this, and the show is it's meant to be campy, but is also a really bizarre show. So I just gave myself 11 minutes, which is probably way too long to talk about the next thing. And I said I was, but maybe it'll give Matt a sigh of relief. But one of the things, I saw the posters for this stuff. It came out of nowhere. It was a movie called Promising Young Woman. And I wasn't sure if it was Promising Young Woman or Promising Young Women. I had no clue because they're kind of, I believe they're spelled the same. So I'm going to try to get this in the next 10 minutes, hopefully less. But I downloaded the movie, got a copy of it. It's actually a downloaded copy that would have been a rental copy. So I would have rented it because I was really curious about this film. I had no clue. And I'll be honest, I thought because the woman looked pretty hot, and I thought it would be, oh, well, maybe this is like one of these weird, sexy movies and stuff. Well, yes and no, a very big no. It is an independent film. The main actress is actually, in real life, she's British, and she plays an American. But that has nothing to do with anything. She is, a woman who is just hung up on, she dropped out of college because something happened to her best friend. And I don't want to mention it because the movie is out right now. And I really did not want to see it, even after I downloaded it, because I was afraid it's going to be, there's too many films out there that are victimizing women and, this whole feminist movement that makes men look like dogs and stuff. And it kind of does, but not really. It's more closer to reality than you want to admit to. I told my friend Matt, I said, I went in, I left him a couple messages as I watched it on Friday night. And it was like, I was taking little breathers here and there because I was doing laundry at home. And I said, as I was watching this, it was like, well, the music's really good. It is definitely an independent film, but it is really, really disturbing. And, I'm not one to feed into this stuff, but, the guys who were not very nice were really nasty. But the director who wrote this, she made sure, I don't know the director's name, I know it is a woman. She made sure, or probably I should say the scriptwriter, that she didn't leave women for being bad as well. Something happened to this woman's friend. It messed her up badly in the head, like she could not let it go. She spent her, she looked a lot older. I looked up the actress's age. That character was supposed to just turn 30, but in real life, the woman was actually more mid-30s, not just turning 30. She was in her mid-30s. So they made sure to pick an actress who was, well-spoken, knows how to do the part, and looks like, they're a bit more aged than they should be because of the stress that they had, that they were carrying. So, yeah. But like I said, this woman, this character, they made her out to be crazy. I believe she was crazy all the way up to the very end. And she could not let go of what happened to her best friend. Something really horrible happened to her best friend and destroyed both their lives. So I'm like watching this, and it's just like it gets more and more. It just tears it tore me apart. And at the very end, it was so disturbing to me that I felt the repercussion of watching this film almost the next day, the entire next day. It just like really, I was finding myself like breaking down and crying because this film was horrible. What happened to this main character? So, and it's not like that I walked away. I told this friend of mine, Matt, I said, I just watched this film. I was forewarned. It was a remake, the third movie made out of this movie called Black Christmas. And this one guy at work told me, you don't really want to watch this. I don't want to watch it because he said it's a feminist movie. It's like, nah, you got to be kidding. It was like, yeah, it is. It just makes guys look like they're evil and women are all victims. And I'm tired of that shit. I really am. This movie had, surprisingly had taken a different different route. And I think they did a really good job. I told my one friend, I said I wouldn't pay to go see this. But then when it kind of like, you let it like absorb what you just watched, I said I said to him tonight, I kind of feel guilty, like I should buy a ticket. I don't want to see the movie again, but I feel guilty that I just ripped him off of a movie ticket because I got the movie for free. Not honestly, I did not know what to expect. I didn't expect the movie to be as good as it was. And, I mean, you can't go by Rotten Tomatoes, but I think in this case I'd have to agree with them. But tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes, I'll leave it go at this, gave it a 91% fresh. The movie is a independent, very small film, so the amount of people who, the critics, I mean, for critics, that's pretty high. It was 293. An audience score of ratings out of 354 was 88%. And it was a fresh score on both ends of Rotten Tomatoes. Now, is that a high percentage of people? No, but you're talking about a film that nobody's ever heard of. And it really got no, promotion at all. The only promotion it got was a poster put at a movie theater that I went to, or two existing movie theaters that are open, because that's another thing. It's not getting any advertisement on TV for this movie, not that I know of. And the only thing it did was have a poster put up at a place called the Water Tower Theater in Montgomeryville, and a poster put up at the AMC Theater, but they're the only two places open around where I live. And that's the only advertisement it got. It had nothing else. So I had no clue what the movie was about, and I was shocked when I saw it. Alrighty, this is Walter from iWalter. I'm going to say I don't know when I'll be back, because I really don't get that many people who listen to me. So that's one of the other reasons why I do it, like, not on a consistent basis. Have a good one, and I will be back soon.